First contact. The Zarkonian survey vessel, Stellar Seeker, drifted silently through the inky void of space, its sensors probing the darkness for signs of intelligent life. Captain Zalthera, a tall, willowy figure with iridescent scales and 4 arms, stood on the bridge, her large, multifaceted eyes fixed on the holographic display before her. Another solar system, another disappointment, she muttered, her voice a melodic trill. I'm beginning to think the elders were right. This sector is devoid of sentient life. Her first officer, Krenthor, a stockier Zarkonian with deep blue scales, approached with a datapad. Captain, long-range scans are picking up unusual electromagnetic emissions from the 3rd planet of this system. Zalthera's antenna twitched with interest. Unusual how? They appear to be artificial in origin, Krenthor replied, his voice tinged with excitement. And there's more. The planet's atmospheric composition is, well, it's unlike anything we've encountered before. The captain's eyes widened. Show me. As the holographic display zoomed in on the blue and green world, a flurry of data scrolled across the screen. Zalthera's antennae quivered as she processed the information. By the cosmic currents, she whispered, this can't be right. The gravity, the atmospheric pressure, the radiation levels. This is a death world. Krenthor nodded solemnly. And yet, Captain, those emissions suggest a technological civilization. Zalthera's mind raced. In all of recorded galactic history, no sentient species had ever emerged from a death world. The very concept was considered impossible. Death worlds were nightmarish places where only the most primitive and vicious life forms could survive, let alone develop intelligence and technology. Prepare a detailed report for the Zarkonian High Council, she ordered. We need to approach this situation with utmost caution. If there is indeed intelligent life on that world, we have no idea what to expect. As the Stellar Seeker cautiously approached Earth's orbit, the ship's advanced cloaking technology keeping it hidden from human detection systems, the crew worked tirelessly to gather more information about this impossible world and its inhabitants. Meanwhile, on the surface of the planet, in a nondescript government building in Washington, D.C., Dr. Elena Rodriguez sat bolt upright in her chair, her eyes fixed on the computer screen before her. As the lead scientist for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence (SETI) program, she had spent years sifting through the cosmic noise, searching for any sign of intelligent life beyond Earth. Now, her persistence had finally paid off. Holy shit, she breathed, her fingers flying across the keyboard. This is it. This has to be it. The anomalous signals she had detected were unlike anything of terrestrial origin. They were too regular, too purposeful to be natural phenomena. With trembling hands, she reached for her phone to call her superiors. As news of the potential alien presence spread through classified channels, the world's governments scrambled to formulate a response. The United Nations convened an emergency session, and military forces worldwide were placed on high alert. Back on the Stellar Seeker, Captain Zalthera received the response from the Zarkonian High Council. The message was clear: establish first contact, but proceed with extreme caution. The potential discovery of a sentient deathworld species was too significant to ignore, but the risks were incalculable. Krenthor, Zalthera called, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. Prepare a first contact package. We're going to reveal ourselves to these deathworlders. As the Zarkonian ship decloaked in Earth's orbit, the reaction on the planet's surface was immediate and intense. Military forces around the globe mobilized, fingers hovering nervously over launch buttons. News networks broadcast frenzied reports, religious leaders called for calm or proclaimed the end times, and social media exploded with a mix of excitement, fear, and wild speculation. In the Oval Office, the President of the United States sat surrounded by advisors, his face grave as he considered the weight of the decision before him. The fate of humanity might well rest on how they handled these next crucial moments. Dr. Rodriguez found herself unexpectedly thrust into the center of events, her expertise suddenly invaluable as governments and military leaders grappled with the reality of first contact. As she pored over the incoming data from the alien ship, she couldn't shake a sense of wonder mixed with trepidation. "They're not attacking," she observed, studying the ship's position and energy readings. "They're just waiting. I think they want to talk." The president nodded, his decision made. "Then let's talk. Dr. Rodriguez, I want you on the team that makes first contact. Your knowledge could be crucial in avoiding any misunderstandings." As Earth prepared its official response, Captain Zalthera and her crew watched and waited, their own anticipation building. They were about to make history, to challenge everything the galactic community thought it knew about the development of intelligent life. "Send the greeting package," Zalthera ordered, her voice solemn. "And may the cosmic currents guide us all through what's to come." The message beamed down to Earth, a complex series of mathematical and visual symbols designed to convey peaceful intentions and a desire for communication. As humans worked feverishly to decipher and respond to the alien overture, both species stood on the brink of a new era. The Deathworlders and the star-faring civilization were about to meet, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. Cultural exchange. The first face-to-face meeting between humans and Zarkonians took place in a hastily constructed, hermetically sealed facility on neutral ground, the International Space Station. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood beside the airlock, her heart pounding as she awaited the arrival of the alien delegation. Despite months of preparation and countless simulations, nothing could truly prepare her for this moment. The airlock hissed open, and Captain Zalthera stepped through, her iridescent scales shimmering under the station's harsh lighting. Dr. Rodriguez's scientific mind raced, cataloging every detail of the alien's physiology, even as she struggled to maintain her composure. "Welcome to humanity's home in space," Elena said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "I'm Dr. Elena Rodriguez, lead scientist for Earth's first contact team." Zalthera's multifaceted eyes blinked in a pattern that Elena's training suggested indicated curiosity. "Greetings, Dr. Rodriguez. I am Captain Zalthera of the Zarkonian Alliance. We are honored to meet you." As the two delegations began their careful dance of introductions and initial exchanges, both sides were acutely aware of the vast gulf of understanding that separated them. The Zarkonians, despite their advanced technology, found themselves constantly surprised by the humans' resilience and adaptability. During one of their early meetings, Krenthor, visibly uncomfortable in the station's Earth-normal gravity, asked about human physical capabilities. Dr. Rodriguez, in response, demonstrated a simple push-up, her muscles straining against the familiar pull of gravity. Zalthera's antennae quivered in astonishment. "You can exert yourself like this, constantly, without rest." Elena smiled, standing up. This is nothing. We have athletes who can run for hours, swimmers who cross vast oceans, climbers who scale vertical cliffs with their bare hands." The Zarkonians exchanged looks of mingled awe and horror. Their own physiology, adapted to the gentle embrace of low-gravity worlds, simply couldn't comprehend such feats. As the days passed, the cultural exchange deepened. The humans shared their art, music, and literature, while the Zarkonians offered glimpses of galactic civilization and advanced scientific knowledge. Yet, underlying every interaction was a current of tension, a fundamental incompatibility that neither side could fully bridge. This tension came to a head during a discussion of colonization practices. Zalthera, attempting to be diplomatic, suggested that humans might be more comfortable relocating to more suitable worlds within the Zarkonian sphere of influence. The human delegation's reaction was immediate and vehement. "Abandon Earth." General Santos, the military liaison, scoffed. "Our world may be harsh by your standards, Captain, but it's our home. We've fought and bled for every inch of it. We won't leave it behind." Zalthera's scales rippled in patterns of distress. "But surely you understand the dangers. the resources required just to survive on such a world, the constant threat of natural disasters, of your own volatile biology. Dr. Rodriguez interjected, her voice calm but firm. Captain, I think there's something you need to understand about humans. The very challenges you see as insurmountable. They've shaped us, driven us to innovate, to adapt, to overcome. Our death world isn't a prison. It's the forge that made us who we are. The Zarkonian captain fell silent, her alien features unreadable to human eyes. After a long moment, she spoke, her voice tinged with a new respect. Perhaps we have much to learn from each other, Dr. Rodriguez. As the official meetings continued, unofficial exchanges began to flourish. Zarkonian scientists, their initial fear giving way to insatiable curiosity, requested permission to study Earth's ecosystems. In return, human researchers were granted limited access to Zarkonian technology, opening up new frontiers in physics, biology, and a dozen other fields. One Zarkonian xenobiologist, Vexera, became particularly fascinated with Earth's diverse and resilient life forms. Working alongside Dr. Rodriguez, she marveled at the adaptability of terrestrial species. "It's extraordinary," Vexera exclaimed, examining a tardigrade under a microscope. "This microscopic creature can survive in the vacuum of space, in boiling water, in the deepest ocean trenches. It's as if your entire world is populated by miniature deathworlders." Elena laughed, a sound that still startled the Zarkonians with its suddenness. "Life finds a way, as one of our scientists once said. It's a principle that applies to humans as much as to tardigrades." But even as scientific and cultural exchanges flourished, political tensions simmered. Some human factions viewed the Zarkonians with suspicion, fearing hidden agendas or future invasion plans. Similarly, conservative elements within the Zarkonian alliance argued against too much contact with the dangerous deathworlders. Captain Zalthera and Dr. Rodriguez found themselves increasingly acting as bridges between their two species, working tirelessly to foster understanding and prevent misunderstandings from escalating into conflicts. During one particularly tense negotiation session, Zalthera surprised everyone by quoting from human literature. "Your Shakespeare once wrote, 'There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.' I believe we are all living that truth now." The human delegates were stunned into silence, then burst into appreciative laughter and applause. It was a small moment, but a significant one, a sign that genuine understanding and respect were beginning to grow between the two species. As the weeks turned to months, both humans and Zarkonians began to adjust to their new reality. The initial shock of first contact gave way to a cautious optimism about the future. Plans were made for expanded scientific cooperation, cultural exchanges, and even the possibility of human observers visiting Zarkonian worlds. Yet, as Dr. Rodriguez noted in her personal log one evening, challenges remained. "We've made incredible progress," she wrote, "but we're still only scratching the surface of our differences. The Zarkonians still see us as something akin to savages, albeit impressively resilient ones, and too many humans view the aliens as either saviors or potential conquerors. True understanding, true acceptance of our fundamental differences, that's still a long way off." She paused, looking out the window of the space station at the blue marble of Earth below and the star-studded expanse beyond. "But we've taken the first steps, and if there's one thing humans know how to do, it's to keep moving forward, no matter the obstacles. Who knows? Maybe that's the lesson we can teach the galaxy." As she finished her log entry, an alert chimed on her computer. A message from the Zarkonian ship, marked urgent. Dr. Rodriguez's brow furrowed as she opened it, unaware that she was about to be thrust into a crisis that would test the fledgling alliance between humans and Zarkonians to its very limits. The message was brief but chilling. Long-range Zarkonian sensors had detected an unknown fleet approaching the solar system at high speed. The Deathworlder's home was about to face its first extraterrestrial threat, and the galaxy was about to learn just how formidable humans could be when protecting their own. Looming threat. The atmosphere in the United Nations Security Council chamber was tense enough to cut with a knife. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before the assembled world leaders, her usual calm demeanor strained as she delivered the news that would change the course of human history. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice steady despite the weight of her words, "approximately 6 hours ago, our Zarkonian allies detected an unknown fleet approaching our solar system. Based on their trajectory and speed, we believe their destination is Earth." A murmur of alarm rippled through the chamber. The Secretary General leaned forward, his face grave. "Do we have any information about their intentions, Dr. Rodriguez?" Elena shook her head. "Not directly, no. But Captain Zalthera has informed us that the ship configurations match those of a species known as the Vextari. And if the Zarkonian records are accurate, their intentions are unlikely to be peaceful." As Elena continued her briefing, detailing what little was known about the Vextari, a highly aggressive, expansionist species that had carved out a significant empire in a distant sector of the galaxy, the gravity of the situation settled over the assembly like a shroud. Meanwhile, aboard the Zarkonian flagship now in permanent orbit around Earth, Captain Zalthera faced a crisis of her own. Her communication array was alive with urgent messages from the Zarkonian High Council, many of them demanding an immediate withdrawal from the system. "Captain," Krenthor said, his normally stoic voice tinged with concern, "the Council is divided. Many feel we should not risk conflict with the Vextari over an unaligned Deathworld species." Zalthera's scales rippled with a mixture of frustration and determination. "And what do you think, old friend?" Krenthor was silent for a long moment. I think we owe these humans more than abandonment in their hour of need. They may be Deathworlders, but they have shown us nothing but openness and a genuine desire for peaceful cooperation." The captain nodded, a human gesture she'd unconsciously adopted. "Prepare a response to the Council. We're staying." As both species scrambled to prepare for the approaching threat, the true nature of their differences and their strengths came into sharp focus. The Zarkonians, with their advanced technology and deep understanding of galactic politics, provided invaluable intelligence and tactical analysis. Their ships, designed for scientific exploration, but equipped with formidable defensive capabilities, took up defensive positions around Earth. The humans, for their part, showcased the innovative thinking and indomitable spirit that had allowed them to thrive on their harsh homeworld. Military strategists pored over the Zarkonian data, adapting and improving upon alien tactics with a creativity that left their allies in awe. In NASA facilities and makeshift engineering labs around the world, human scientists and engineers worked feverishly to integrate Zarkonian technology with Earth's defensive systems. The learning curve was steep, but the humans attacked the challenge with a fervor that amazed their alien counterparts. During one late-night session, as Dr. Rodriguez collaborated with a team of human and Zarkonian scientists, she noticed Vexera staring at her with an unreadable expression. "Is everything all right, Vexera?" Elena asked, concerned. The Zarkonian xenobiologist tilted her head, a gesture of contemplation. "I'm just amazed. Your people face possible extinction, yet you work with such focus, such drive. There's no panic, no despair. How is this possible?" Elena smiled grimly. "Oh, there's panic all right. But humans, we've lived our entire history on the edge of disaster. Supervolcanoes, ice ages, pandemics. Our world has thrown everything it has at us. And we're still here. This is just one more challenge to overcome." As the days ticked by and the Vextari fleet drew ever closer, this unique human resilience began to inspire their Zarkonian allies. Captain Zalthera found herself quoting human literature in her reports to the High Council, trying to convey the spirit of these remarkable Deathworlders. But not everyone was convinced. As news of the approaching threat spread, Panic began to grip portions of the human population. Riots broke out in some cities, doomsday cults gained followers, and governments struggled to maintain order while preparing for a war unlike any in human history. In orbit, the combined human-Zarkonian fleet held their positions, a thin line of defense against the coming storm. Retrofitted human spacecraft, a hodgepodge of repurposed satellites, and hastily constructed orbital platforms, joined the sleek Zarkonian vessels in a display of interspecies cooperation that would have been unthinkable mere months ago. As the estimated time of the Vexteri arrival approached, Dr. Rodriguez found herself back on the International Space Station, now serving as a joint command center. She stood beside Captain Zalthera, both of them gazing out at the blue marble of Earth below. "Your people have achieved so much in so little time," Zalthera said softly. "I've seen spacefaring civilizations with centuries of experience fail to mount a defense half as impressive." Elena nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "We've had good teachers and a lot of motivation." Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. On the main view screen, a swarm of angry red dots appeared at the edge of the solar system. The Vexteri had arrived. As the human and Zarkonian commanders rushed to their stations, barking orders and coordinating their forces, Dr. Rodriguez felt a moment of stark clarity. This was it, the moment that would decide the fate of her species, her world, and perhaps the very nature of life in the galaxy. The Vexteri fleet, a terrifying armada of sharp predatory shapes, began to advance into the solar system. Their numbers were even greater than the Zarkonian intelligence had suggested, and for a moment, a wave of despair threatened to overwhelm the defenders. But then, something remarkable happened, all across the Earth, in every nation and every walk of life. Humans looked up at the sky, knowing the threat that loomed above them, and instead of cowering, they stood tall. Radio telescopes picked up a surge in transmissions from the planet, not panicked farewells, but messages of defiance, of hope, of unwavering determination. In orbit, human pilots strapped themselves into untested hybrid craft, their hands steady on the controls despite the enormity of the task before them. On the ground, engineers and scientists continued to work, seeking any advantage, any innovation that might tip the scales. As the Vexteri approached weapons range, Captain Zalthera turned to Dr. Rodriguez, her alien features set in an expression of grim resolve. "Dr. Rodriguez, Elena, whatever happens next, it has been an honor to know you and your people." Elena nodded, her own face a mask of determination. "The honor is ours, Captain. Now let's show these Vexteri what happens when you threaten a world of Deathworlders." With that, the greatest battle in Earth's history began. The Vexteri struck hard and fast, their technology far beyond anything humanity had ever faced. But they found themselves opposed not just by advanced Zarkonian ships, but by a species tempered in the fires of a Deathworld, a people who had clawed their way up from the mud and now stood ready to defend everything they had built. As the first shots were fired, and the darkness of space lit up with the fury of battle, one thing became clear: win or lose, the galaxy would never forget the day it learned the true mettle of humanity. Unlikely alliance. The void of space erupted into a maelstrom of light and destruction as the Vexteri fleet engaged the combined human-Zarkonian forces. Energy beams lanced across the darkness, missiles streaked between the stars, and the very fabric of space-time rippled with the intensity of the conflict. Aboard the International Space Station, now serving as the nerve center for Earth's defense, Dr. Elena Rodriguez worked feverishly alongside human and Zarkonian analysts. Her eyes darted between holographic displays, each one telling a part of the unfolding battle. "We're losing the outer defense line," a grim-faced military officer reported. "The Vexteri weapons are cutting through our shields like they're not even there." Captain Zalthera, her iridescent scales dulled with stress, leaned over a tactical display. "We expected this. Their technology is beyond even Zarkonian standards. But we planned for it. Dr. Rodriguez, is your team ready?" Elena nodded, her face set with determination. As ready as we'll ever be. Let's hope this works. What followed was a demonstration of human ingenuity that would be remembered for generations to come. In the scant weeks they'd had to prepare, human scientists had worked around the clock, combining Zarkonian technology with Earth's most advanced research in ways their allies had never imagined. The result was a series of quantum field disruptors, hastily retrofitted to both human and Zarkonian ships. As the devices activated, ripples of distortion spread across the battlefield. Vextari energy weapons sputtered and misfired, their pinpoint accuracy reduced to wild, ineffective barrages. "It's working," Elena exclaimed, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and amazement. "Their targeting systems are completely thrown off." Zalthara's antennae quivered with excitement. "Incredible. You've managed to weaponize the quantum uncertainty principle itself. In all our centuries of advancement, we never thought to." She was cut off as the station rocked violently. Alarms blared as a new threat appeared on the tactical displays. "Vextari boarding parties," the security chief reported, his voice tense. "They've latched onto the station. Multiple breaches detected." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. The Vextari, realizing their ranged weapons were compromised, had switched to close-quarters combat, a domain where their natural aggression and advanced biotechnology gave them a terrifying advantage. Captain Zalthara turned to Elena, her alien features set in a grim expression. "Dr. Rodriguez, we need to evacuate you and the other key personnel. The station's defenses won't hold for long." But Elena shook her head, a fierce light in her eyes. "No, this station is the linchpin of our entire defense network. If it falls, Earth falls. We stand our ground." For a moment, Zalthara looked like she might argue. Then, to Elena's surprise, the Zarkonian captain let out a sound that might have been a laugh. "You Deathworlders continue to amaze me. Very well. We fight together." What followed was a desperate battle through the corridors of the space station. The Vextari, insectoid creatures with bioengineered armor and weapons grafted directly to their bodies, poured through the breaches. They moved with a speed and ferocity that seemed impossible in the microgravity environment. But they found themselves facing an enemy unlike any they'd encountered before. Human soldiers, their bodies pushed to the limit by the station's artificial gravity, fought with a tenacity that shocked even their Zarkonian allies. They used the environment to their advantage, repurposing tools as weapons, using maintenance shafts for ambushes, and employing tactics that seemed insane to their methodical foes. Elena found herself in the thick of the fighting, her scientific knowledge becoming an unexpected asset. She guided defenders to weak points in Vextari bioarmor, suggested impromptu weapons using the station's equipment, and coordinated with the Zarkonian defenders to maximize their effectiveness. In one harrowing moment, Elena found herself face to face with a Vextari warrior, its mandibles clicking in anticipation of an easy kill. But years of rock climbing as a hobby had given Elena strength out of proportion with her size. She grappled with the creature, using its own momentum to slam it against a bulkhead with bone-crushing force. As the battle raged on, something unexpected began to happen. The Zarkonians, inspired by the humans' indomitable spirit, began to fight with a ferocity they had never known they possessed. Captain Zalthara, in particular, seemed transformed, her usual calm replaced by a battle fury that matched any human warrior. "I think I'm beginning to understand," Zalthara shouted over the din of combat, her energy weapon felling Vextari left and right. "This is what it means to be a Deathworlder, to face impossible odds and refuse to yield." Elena, breathless and battered but unbowed, managed to grin. "Welcome to the club, Captain." As the hours wore on, the tide of battle began to turn. The Vextari, for all their advanced technology and bioengineering, found themselves outmaneuvered and outfought at every turn. Their rigid hierarchy and inability to adapt to the chaos of the station's close quarters became their downfall. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity of combat, the last Vextari boarding party was repelled. The station, battered and scared but still operational, remained in Allied hands. As Elena and Zalthera made their way back to the command center, they were met with a sight that took their breath away. The main view screen showed the space around Earth, and it was filled with the burning wreckage of Vexteri ships. The quantum disruptors had done their work, leaving the invaders vulnerable to the combined might of Earth's militaries and the Zarkonian fleet. What had seemed like an overwhelming force mere hours ago was now a broken, retreating armada. As cheers erupted throughout the station, Elena felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Captain Zalthera, the Zarkonian's alien features expressing an emotion that needed no translation. Profound respect. "Dr. Rodriguez," Zalthera said, her voice filled with awe. "I believe we owe you and your people an apology. We called you Deathworlders, thinking it a mark of savagery. We never understood that it was the source of your greatest strength." Elena smiled, exhausted but triumphant. "We're just happy to prove we can be good allies, Captain. Though I think Deathworlder might become a badge of honor after today." As the remnants of the Vexteri fleet fled the solar system, humans and Zarkonians alike knew that this was more than just a military victory. It was the forging of a bond between two species, tempered in the fires of battle, and built on mutual respect and understanding. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a new power, not just humanity, but a union of Deathworlders and starfarers that promised to reshape the cosmic order. And as Earth celebrated its salvation, the first whispers of a greater destiny began to spread among the stars. But even as victory seemed assured, Elena couldn't shake a nagging worry. The Vexteri had been driven off, yes, but not destroyed. And if there was one thing her Deathworld heritage had taught her, it was that wounded predators were often the most dangerous. This, she feared, was not the end of the conflict, but merely the opening salvo in a much larger war. As if reading her thoughts, Captain Zalthera approached, her expression serious. "Dr. Rodriguez, we've just received a transmission from the Zarkonian High Council. They're concerned about the implications of this battle. They want us to return immediately for a full debriefing." Elena nodded, understanding the unspoken message. The political ramifications of this conflict were just beginning to unfold. And Earth? What about our alliance? Zalthera's antennae twitched in what Elena had come to recognize as a sign of determination. "That, my friend, is what we must fight for next. The battle for Earth may be over, but the battle for humanity's place in the galaxy, that's just beginning." As they turned to face the view screen, the blue marble of Earth hanging serenely against the star-studded backdrop of space, both human and Zarkonian knew that the greatest challenges and the greatest opportunities still lay ahead. A new galactic order. The great hall of the Galactic Conclave buzzed with an energy unlike anything seen in its millennia-long history. Representatives from 100 spacefaring civilizations murmured amongst themselves, their voices a cacophony of clicks, whistles, and rumbles. At the center of it all stood Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the first human to address this august body. Elena took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her entire species resting on her shoulders. Beside her, Captain Zalthera offered a reassuring nod, her iridescent scales shimmering under the hall's ethereal lighting. "Representatives of the Galactic Conclave," Elena began, her voice steady and clear. "I stand before you not just as an envoy of Earth, but as a voice for all the worlds you've dismissed as too harsh, too dangerous, too uncivilized to join your community of stars." A ripple of unease passed through the assembled aliens. Many had argued against even allowing a Deathworlder to address the conclave. "For too long, the galaxy has lived in fear of species like mine," Elena continued. "You've called us savage, unpredictable, dangerous. And perhaps in some ways, you were right. We are the children of a world that tried to kill us every step of our evolution. We've faced extinction a dozen times over and emerged stronger each time." She paused, her gaze sweeping across the hall. "But what you fail to understand is that this crucible of evolution didn't just make us strong or resilient. It made us innovative, adaptable, and above all, empathetic. We know the value of cooperation because without it, we would have perished long ago. Captain Zalthera stepped forward, her presence causing a stir among the Zarkonian delegation. Esteemed colleagues, I stand with the humans not out of obligation, but out of profound respect, and yes, friendship. I've seen firsthand what these Deathworlders are capable of. They took our technology and, in weeks, adapted it in ways we never imagined. They faced an enemy that outmatched them in every way, and through sheer determination and ingenuity, they prevailed. A holographic display flickered to life, showing footage from the battle against the Vexteri. The assembled representatives watched in awe as human pilots performed maneuvers that seemed to defy physics, as hastily modified weapons turned the tide of an impossible battle. But more than their martial prowess, Zalthera continued, I've been struck by their capacity for peace. Even in the midst of a war for survival, they never lost sight of their desire for peaceful coexistence. They fought not for conquest, but for the right to join this community of stars as equals. Elena nodded, picking up the thread. We come before you today not to demand a place at your table, but to offer our hand in friendship. The galaxy faces threats that no single species can hope to overcome alone. The Vexteri are still out there, and they're not the only danger lurking in the cosmic dark. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed images of human achievements, soaring cities, advanced laboratories, and feats of engineering that defied belief. Imagine what we could accomplish together. The resilience and adaptability of Deathworlders combined with the advanced technology and wisdom of your oldest civilizations, we could usher in an era of exploration and discovery unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. A murmur ran through the crowd, a mix of excitement and trepidation. Elena pressed on, her voice rising with passion. But for this to happen, we need to move past our fears and preconceptions. We need to recognize that diversity, true diversity, not just in form, but in the very environments that shaped us, is our greatest strength. She turned to address the Zarkonian delegation directly. You called us Deathworlders, and you were right. But what you never understood is that our harsh world didn't just shape our bodies. It forged our spirits. We don't just survive, we thrive in adversity. And now, we're ready to take that spirit to the stars. As Elena's words echoed through the hall, a slow transformation seemed to come over the assembled representatives. Fear and suspicion gave way to curiosity, then to cautious optimism. Questions began to fly, not accusations but genuine inquiries about human culture, technology, and potential contributions to galactic society. In the days that followed, debates raged and negotiations stretched into the night, but the outcome was never really in doubt. Humanity, with the staunch support of their Zarkonian allies, was granted provisional membership in the Galactic Conclave. As Elena and Zalthera stood on a balcony overlooking the sprawling alien cityscape, the weight of their achievement finally began to sink in. You know, Elena said, a smile playing on her lips, when I was a little girl dreaming of the stars, I never imagined anything like this. Zalthera's antennae twitched in amusement, and I never imagined I'd count a Deathworlder among my closest friends. It seems we've both had our horizons expanded. Their moment of reflection was interrupted by a priority alert. A holographic screen materialized before them, showing a grim-faced human admiral. Dr. Rodriguez, Captain Zalthera, we've detected multiple Vexteri fleets mobilizing at the edges of known space. It appears they're preparing for a major offensive, not just against Earth, but against multiple conclave worlds. Elena and Zalthera exchanged a look of understanding. This was the moment they had prepared for, the reason they had fought so hard for humanity's acceptance. Inform the conclave, Elena said, her voice filled with determination. Tell them Earth stands ready to fulfill its commitment to galactic defense. Zalthera nodded, adding, and inform them that the Zarkonian fleet will fight alongside our human allies. It's time the galaxy learned what a united front truly means. As the Admiral's image faded, Alina turned back to the alien cityscape, her mind already racing with plans and strategies. You know, Captain, I think the Vexteri are about to learn a very important lesson about underestimating Deathworlders. Zalthara's scales rippled in what Alina had come to recognize as the Zarkonian equivalent of a grin. Indeed, my friend. And I have a feeling the rest of the galaxy is about to learn that lesson as well. As they stood there, a human and a Zarkonian united in purpose, the first stars of evening began to appear in the alien sky. Each point of light represented not just distant suns, but new frontiers, new challenges, and new opportunities for a galaxy forever changed by the arrival of humanity. The age of the peaceful Deathworlders had begun, and the universe would never be the same.